Hello, everybody. Good to be with you as always. Today, I want to talk to you about the full spectrum of awakening. And I say the full spectrum because it is not a one-time thing, and it's not a one and done. And but we all believe, or most of us believe, that it's one and done, even when we hear it's not. Because it just when it's just the way we do. When I read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now the first time, and it would, I'd be reading along, and then he'd get to the little exercises, and I thought, well, that's just for the stupid ones. That's only the ones that don't get it. I get it, so I won't be doing these exercises. But I did them 2 years later when I was suffering greatly, and actually, I received the gift that Awakening, the Power of Now, was offering. I got to name one of my own books. So when I say the full spectrum of awakening, I'm really talking about 4 levels. And I don't mean like it's, oh, we get to this level and then we're going to get together and we're going to work real hard and achieve the next one and all that. It's not an achievement. There's nobody who's going to achieve anything. The full spectrum of awakening, it comes in, it's 4 levels. The first one is recognition. The second one is acceptance. The third is clearing, what I call clearing, what everybody else calls it. They don't call it anything because most of them don't talk about it. And the fourth one is abidance. So recognition is simply, you can't make recognition happen. Recognition is coming to see, oh, there's no Fred, or, oh, I'm it. I'm the thing that I am, the very thing that I've been seeking. And it sounds real easy, but once you wake up, what you do actually wake up, then the first thing you notice is, oh man, this is nothing like I had in mind. And I don't know anybody who ever said anything other than that when they woke up. I mean, it's just, you can't guess it. You can't figure it out, and you can't guess it. You can't get ahead of it. So the recognition is the trickiest part, probably. Well, it's all tricky, but it's not, but it's not hard. So don't get yourself all worked up. I'm going to get through this if it kills me. That was my attitude. And as long as it was my attitude, I didn't get through it. And one time when I had just kind of worked myself through to exhaustion with this back in 1992, and an awakening occurred, and I experienced it. I know, I knew it was the real McCoy. I knew exactly what had happened. I just didn't understand who it had happened to, because that awakening was not a Fred Davis awakening. There's no Fred Davis here, but we can get into that later. At least there's no Fred Davis woke up that day. This unit did not wake up this day. This unit does not have the capability of waking up. This unit is an animated cadaver. Under its own steam, it is insentient. When the consciousness is inhabiting this unit, it's sentient, right? And then we have this consciousness that we're talking about there. We had 2 levels of that. There's conscious awareness, and then there's unconscious awareness. Most everybody in the world is unconsciously awake. You can't not be awake. I mean, if you listen to it, because I usually call it awakeness, and I call it awakeness because that's a real pointer, hopefully, that awakeness, I mean, where would you, awakeness, that title doesn't allow for sleep. So we use these terms, but they're misinterpreted. There is no one who could sleep. Awakeness itself is always here, and it's always clear. But the thing that it's coming through isn't always here. It's here while it's here, but it's never clear. It is clearer and less clear. It's more clear, less clear. But it's never going to be, as long as there's a body on the planet, it's not going to be perfectly clear. It's going to be, there's stages above the clarity that is experienced here. I know that. I know Ramana, we have a very similar experience. I'm not jealous of that experience, but it looks to me like that he had a very deep awakening. I don't want to put myself on up there with Rama. And same thing with people like Nisargadatta. I mean, he's basically my teacher, and except the fact he doesn't know it because he's dead. And but I still avail myself of this teaching on a regular basis. So recognition is that simple. It's so simple. And it's when you wake up, the first thing you go is, oh, how could I have missed this? I mean, this is most people's experience. It may not be yours, but it's probably is going to be, or probably already has been, because you may have already had an awakening experience or multiple awakening experiences. And that this video is for you. If you have had that and you do not know who you are this exact moment. And I don't mean know it here. You know what I mean. I mean, unless you were actually being it right now. That's what I really mean. Because there's no way to see it. That's a phrase that we use. It's very skillful. It's just not true. You don't really see it. You can only be it. Because to see it, I'd have to see it over there. And how's oneness going to do that when there's no over there? And there's nothing other than oneness. So when there's nothing other than oneness, what do you think it is that experiences awakening? If there's oneness, there's no room for a Fred or a Betsy. There's no room for other of any type, no other. So when oneness when there's an awakening, it's oneness's awakening. And that's the surprise. Because you can think that I've just told you something and now you'll be able to make sense of it. It will help. It will help. I promise you that. Because I didn't have a teacher, I didn't have a living teacher at the time that I woke up. I read a lot of books. I don't even know that I had to. So this is what I have learned. I'm just being as candid as I possibly can be. And I learned this way back when, and I didn't really learn it. It was just a gift. I mean, it just came. It actually, and when it came, I didn't recognize it had come until people started waking up. That's how I found out that I was supposed to wake people up, was that people started waking up. And I was reluctant to that. I didn't want to be a teacher for some time. But I mean, I had secretly wanted to be a teacher forever, but that was for my ego's sake. I wanted to be a teacher so that you would be impressed with me and think more highly of me. And that, that's probably going to work out pretty good with Fred. Surely girls will be impressed with him, won't they? And it's just idiocy. It's just idiocy. And I'm ashamed to admit it, but I shouldn't be ashamed because it's just human. And there's still a human over here. There's not just awakeness. This thing is not just awakeness. It is awakeness. But when I say just awakeness, I mean there's not an experience of the absolute and no experience of the relative. And just like there's really very few people have a life that's completely lived in relativity. Some of it, most people are going to get a pop. And when I say a pop or a glimpse or something like that, I mean that the truth will make itself known to you. And most of us will never recognize that it's available, that it's made itself available. Yeah, and when I say available, it sounds like it's like it's not always already here, but it is always already here, but you just can't see it because we're so involved with these, right? So the breakthrough, because what we think, and this will tell you something. What we think, I mean, that's what everybody that comes to me, people that come to me, their experience is inevitably going to be that, I mean, unless they're already awake, and people who are already awake do come to me. But if they're not already awake when they get here, then their belief will be, I understand, well, the same as mine was, which is that I understand all this intellectually. It's just not my experience. Doesn't that feel very familiar to you? Is that I understand all this intellectually. It's just not my experience. And that's the way I felt, and that's the way pretty much everybody feels that is getting close to awakening, right? And when I say close, I mean they're just not living strictly in, they are aware, they're studying non-duality, or they're doing something, Betsy was a woodworker back in the day, and when she would get in that zone, and you would call it, the Zen zone or whatever, and she would do it like if she was shaving down wood or whatever, and there would be nothing else, right? So you don't have to study non-duality to get a glimpse, but you probably are not going to recognize what has happened, even if you have studied non-duality, but you will surely not if you don't. Because I've had so many people, who've come to me and they were living a normal life, and they were walking down the street, or they were sitting in their home office, or they were cooking, whatever, just going about their business, just woke up from sleep, and there's something happened. And it doesn't mean that there was boom, 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 and rainbows, and and fireworks and all that. It doesn't have to be that. It can be that, but it doesn't have to be. And I don't wish that yours will be, because if it is, and you don't have a living teacher working with you, then you're going to be confused for the next 3 to 5 years at least. So I woke up on my own. I tried to clear up on my own, and I could not. So recognition is just this pop, and it's just like it can be. It doesn't even have to be doesn't have to feel like a big spiritual pop. It can feel like just a regular insight, because that's what it really is. It's an insight into truth. And this insight, depending on where you are psychologically, it may show up as a circus, and it may show up as, as an infant, just silent and still. But you know. And And but that's just for the sake of the recognition. I go on and on about this because this is what you're spending all your time trying to get, unless you've already gotten that. You've noticed that it wasn't permanent, and so now you're trying to get that thing back. And this time you do want it permanently. I want my awakening. I want it permanently, right? I will not do an awakening session from anybody who thinks they're going to get a permanent awakening. There isn't such a thing. There can be an ongoing awakening experience, and we can have that ongoing, and it can appear to be intermittent. That'll be the experience for the human, is that it'll be intermittent, here for a while, gone for a long while usually, and then back for a while. That can happen over a period of months or weeks, or it can happen quite rapidly. But if it's happening quite rapidly, I mean, you're pretty much there. That won't go on rapidly for too long. But the thing is, what you're spending all your time trying to achieve, and which many of you again have just achieve is just the word, and that you have already achieved, is not what you're really after. recognition is a great thing, but I mean, I had recognition, I don't know how many times. In other words, I had glimpses. That's what we call them in non-duality usually, is glimpses. I had glimpses, where I had insights, would be another word for it. But it's just your truth makes itself apparent to you. But the first step is recognition, and the second step is acceptance, and that's where everybody drops the ball. Virtually everyone will drop the ball in between 1 and 2, between recognition and acceptance. If the ball can get dropped after that, it can get dropped anywhere. It can get dropped from a place of abidance, so to speak. So there is no vaccination against the dream. And we don't really want one. I mean, the dream is typically pretty enjoyable. Doesn't mean everything's all right for the character. I mean, hell, I've been sick 3 years. And if the character had its druthers, I wouldn't have been sick 3 years. There would have been no pain, there would have been no disability and all that. It just wouldn't have happened. But I didn't. I wasn't guaranteed that. I thought it was guaranteed anyway, the way most of us do. And it wouldn't work out, so smoothly for you, but it would for me, because I was the special one.